Hey everybody, Mike here at Games from Scratch. Perhaps you just finished watching my The Others featuring Panda 3D game engine series, and you want to get started with some of that sexy Panda 3D PBR action, or perhaps you're just out there trying to get working with Panda 3D and the Render Pipeline extension. The truth of the matter is, it's not hard to do, but it's not intuitive, it's not documented. So I thought I'd whack together this quick video basically showing you how to set up Panda 3D to use the new Render Pipeline extension, both of which under active development. Now, what you would intuitively think to do is head on over to panda3d.org, click download, and grab the full thing. And that's not a very good idea because that will not work out for you. What you instead need to do is go over to the GitHub page and get the under development version. You can either build it yourself, which can be a bit of a pain, to be honest, because they're relying, at least currently, on some somewhat older compilers, and you don't want to have to build their external libraries, etc. Until this is updated, what you're probably better off doing is using a pre-done build, which nicely they provide. Also, you may think about using the pip installer. The Python-based library installer does not get you the right version, so do not do that. Instead, what you want to do is go to the development builds right here. It creates basically nightly builds of Panda. Hopefully that you actually pick one that happens to work, and just head on over here and grab the one you need. So in my case, I'm fine with Panda Python 3.5. Coincidentally, doesn't really matter which version of Python you already have installed because Panda will install its own version. So you really shouldn't care which one you pick. I'll go with 3.5 because, I don't know, it's the top link. I am running 64-bit, so this is the guy that I want right here. And just go ahead and let that download. It's 100 megs in size, so this could take a little bit of time depending on your download speeds. I'm not going to bother. My download speeds are pretty good, so this should be done any second now. Okay, and done. Once you got that, of course, go ahead, open that up. Once it's found to be safe, we'll run that guy, and then just pick where to install to. So I'll put it there. Ooh, oh no, I got plenty of space. Okay, pick what you need. You know what, I'm pretty much fine with everything that's there. And I'm not actually sure what the requirements are going to be if you need the C++ sources, etc. for this to work. So you're probably in your best bet to go ahead and do a default full install. So we'll let this run. So I'll go on to the next part. So the next thing we've got to deal with is the actual render pipeline. This is what adds physical-based rendering, shading, and deferred rendering to the Panda 3D game engine and makes it look so much nicer, which coincidentally, if you never watched the Others video, now's a good time. Well, actually, when you're done here is a good time. It really makes Panda 3D a much more beautiful render, as you can see right here. And I hope this gets rolled into the main branch at some point in the near future because it really does make the engine just that much nicer. But what you want to do is head on over to this page, and of course I will throw the GitHub link for Panda and the render pipeline links both down below, so don't worry about the URLs at the top. They're both down below in the comments. But what you want to do is head on over to the Get Started section, and specifically you want this line of code right here. Now, if you don't have Git installed on your computer, at this point in time you probably should. Git is pretty much one of the essentials now. But you can also do the same thing by going here and downloading the zipped filed version. And where you put that doesn't really matter too much. I'm actually going to put it in my Panda install, which in theory is done-ish. Actually, I'm going to need it to be done because it installs Python. Okay, I don't need to see the manual, and done. All right, so fire up command prompt, d:\dev/panda. Now, what you want to make sure though is that that first install is done because that actually installs things like the python runtime, which you need to continue on. So now that we've got that, you want to go ahead and run that git command. This is a simple cut paste job. And this will now clone down the render pipeline stuff to your local machine. Okay, so now you have the render pipeline, render pipeline extension installed to your Panda directory. We're going to switch into that folder right there. Yeah, let me get you a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so I am now in the render pipeline folder. You will see there is a samples directory and there's a setup right here. It's the setup you actually want to go ahead and run. So just run setup.py Failed to import. Oh, my bad. So what you need to do is run the the Panda version, so pPython. So if you have multiple versions of Python installed on your machine, run pPython instead of Python, and then again setup.py. So now it knows where all the required stuff is. It runs through, does its configuration, and the final thing it's going to do is say, would you like the samples? And the samples are actually fairly large in size, so we'll go ahead and download them. They're 450 megabytes though, so just do be aware this script can take a little bit of time to run since it's pulling down half a gig worth of files. But essentially now you have Python and Panda and the render extensions now installed. You're good to go. Almost. Now, there's one thing that I ran into, like a gigantic train wreck, that I wanted to make you aware of, and part of why I did this video actually is if you, like me, are running Windows 10 with an Optimus laptop, so you've got an Intel GPU and an NVIDIA GPU, you really, and I mean really, want to do this next step, because when you run these samples, if you do not do it, your machine will hard lock. So you do not want to run the render pipeline samples on Windows 10 using an integrated graphics processor. Trust me, you just do not want to do it. So instead what you want to do is go to your NVIDIA control panel, like so. I don't know why this is so slow, but it is. And you've probably done this for a game in the past. If you've lived the Optimus life, you know how to turn it off by now, but it may not be immediately obvious to everybody. This is just for people with laptops that have Intel and NVIDIA GPUs. Coincidentally, if you have just no dedicated GPU in your machine, and when you start running these examples, they start to crash, probably your GPU. And it crashed. Again, we're not talking green screen. It just literally hung my machine every time until I made this change. So what you want to do is come in here and locate pPython. It should have just run, so it should be here in the list somewhere. Should be. All right, let's go to add. Come on. Okay, so that's the right one. So that's dev Panda3D Python pPython. Add that guy in. Come up here and select high performance NVIDIA processor. And this is actually a good thing to do in general, because otherwise all of the stuff that you run with Panda will run using your integrated GPU as it stands anyway. So that's why if your performance is kind of crap, you're going to want to go through this step anyways. So now that that's set up, we should be good to go. Our examples are now down. So you see here we have a samples folder. Let's go into one of the folders. And how about car? Okay, so pPython, so make sure you run the right one, main.py. And here is Panda3D rendering the render pipeline and floating in the background. Give it a second. I'm not actually even sure what this example does. There you go. There you can see a car in, very sensitive. Using the new render pipeline, and then you can sit here. You can change some of the rendering stats, so we could switch to a wireframe renderer if we so wish. So we can change out the rendering modes. Ooh, did not like that change. Sorry for the sounds of my fans spinning up in the background, but you can see all the various different renderers going on, and we'll go back to the default so it looks as good as possible. So therein lies one of the examples available in the new render pipeline extension. And as you can see, it does a pretty nice job. It's a little oversaturated, but still, it's a stunning renderer, way beyond what's bundled out of the box. So that is how to set up Panda with the render pipeline. Again, if you get a crash or a hard lock, do make sure that it's not running on your internal GPU. That is definitely one of the things I've ran into as a big problem. And the other thing is you do want to make sure that it's not picking up your local install of Python. So that's why there is this separate version called pPython install. And this should be added to your path by default by the installer. Where's my witch? Okay, I don't have witch on this computer. Anyways, it will point as being in that folder. your subdirectory of the Python or the Panda install. That's ultimately, you want to make sure that one's running if you have another copy of Python running. But that is it. That is all that's really required to get up and running with the new extension. Just do be sure you use the development build and not the build that's available on the website. This one works. This one is outdated and does not have the functionality required. And then, of course, just clone it down and be sure to run it using the ppython command as opposed to the straight up Python command when you do the setup. And you're off to the races. And again, this project here, this render pipeline project, is a game changer for the Panda game engine. Too many P's in this. It's very struggling over my P's going on. So if you're going to check out the one, do be sure to check out the other. And this was the process to do so. So hopefully you found that useful. It's been it for now. One last time I'm going to mention, I won't say that's the last time, I'm going to keep mentioning this over and over again. YouTube broke notifications. If you want to make sure you're notified, you got to click the bell. You can't just be subscribed. So if you want to hear the minute I get a new video out, you got to click that little bell icon. Hopefully I can stop saying that soon, but that's my signing off notice, I guess, for videos from now on. All right, see you all later. Goodbye.